not offering seller financing on an underperforming asset with lots of vacancies. Explain that the property doesn't qualify for conventional bank financing until you can fix the problem and turn the thing around, just like our financiers here said. What did they say? 2 words: cash flow. Remember? Yeah? Okay. Now, you got to understand as well something very important here. It's going to take a little bit of time to turn around the property, turn around the building. And you need to tell them, let the sellers know that you need to get in there and they have to wait until payday to get paid, and they should have to wait till payday to get paid too. Now, here's some things here. No interest and no payments for as long as possible is best, obviously. Offer lots of interest or also a profit share. Look, the cost of money is irrelevant as long as the terms are there. Or profit. If you got a lot of profit, that's why we need equity at closing. You can offer equity in exchange for capital. If you must pay interest, ask it to be accrued annually or quarterly, no payments or accrued interest, which we covered on the slides when we went over the formulas. Okay, page 80. Try to graduate the interest. All right? Now this is important. Write this down. This is important, like every session we do is important. I want to point out certain nuggets so they stick for you, because whenever I point out certain nuggets, I know that these were lifelong lessons that I did, and I want to make sure that you guys get it. You guys appreciate that? Okay. Try to graduate the interest on a note. Let's say they're going to go ahead and carry for 36 months. That's 3 years, folks. 2% the first year, 5% the next year, and then 10% the third year. You can schedule it any way you want it. 2% the first year, 7% the second year, which is probably close to prime, a little higher. And then you could even do 15% the third year. Now, what is that telling them? And you're telling them this: I need time to get this thing up to market occupancy. I need time to get my marketing company in place to go ahead and fill the vacancies. I need time to go ahead and raise the rents on each one of these units. And you know what's going to happen when we raise the rents, seller? People might move out. So I need to have time to put people back in. Well, of course, we have techniques to go ahead and raise rents so people don't move out. You don't need to tell them that. You're not teaching a seminar, folks. Now you're telling them that it's going to take a lot of time to get it done. It could take 3 years. It could take 5 years. It could take time to get this thing operational. So you're telling them, hey, look, if we have 36 months, it's going to take us 36 months to cash you out. Because that's what it's going to take to get this thing so it's flush, and we can take you out once it's flush. What are you telling them? You're telling them that you're asking for a little bit of relief on year one, because nothing's going to happen. You're asking for moderate terms, regular prime terms on year number 2, right? Which isn't bad. And then in year 3, they're really going to profit. They're really going to profit because that year 3 is the critical year, and that's the year that you're going to start making the income, so they should be able to make money too. Do you guys understand that philosophy? Right. We always buy more time, don't we, folks? In this scenario on 36 months, are we going to be able to get in, get out, get rich within 12 months? Maybe 18 months, worst case scenario. So what type of interest did you just buy, knowing that you're going to get it done in 12 months or 18 months or less? Smoking terms, guys. 2% interest. Who here'd like 2% interest? All right. Sometimes, guys, it's negotiations the way that you put it out. When you're presenting things this way, they don't teach you this in school, right? These are the big leagues. They don't teach you this in financing. This is creative techniques for negotiating to get solid, strong interest. Take that to your OPM partner and say, look, I got 2% interest on this thing for the first 12 months and 7% interest for the second year. And by the way, we bought more time. It's going to cost us a little bit more at 10 to 15%, but who cares? How do you like them terms? Those are great terms. You negotiated those terms? Terry did. Who's Terry? All right. Consider raising the down payment in return for reducing the price. Show them verbally that you can raise the capital, that it's no problem. Let me explain. $2.5 million price, the seller would carry 80%. That's $2 million. And require $500 down payment. Here's your alternative. $1 million down for a $2 million price, or $1.5 million down for a $2 million price. If the seller says no, they will likely not ask you to raise the down payment or price later when you ask for other terms or concessions. Guys, it's always open to ask. We can always ask. All right? Now here, I'm going to talk about subordination really quick because I know that we're moving forward rapidly. Okay. Now, subordination, the big, strong, scary word. Guys, subordination, it's not a hard thing. All right? And I'll tell you right now, when I ask for it, I get it. And when I don't get it, when I ask for it, I get it later. Because I know that what I can do is I can get in there and explain the reasons why it's a benefit. All right? Subordination is the most powerful and one of the hardest ones to get. The best way to get it is just ask. Okay? It is. The technique will be used frequently, and it's one of my favorites, to make property easy to fund. Easy to fund. Subordination means to go in a junior lien position, meaning that if you had a note, seller carried note, seller financing we're speaking of, folks, okay? A seller finance note. What we want them to do is subordinate that note to second position to allow us to get a new first mortgage. And a lot of times, we can get a new first mortgage, and that new loan will go ahead and pay for the down payment, the improvements on the property, the holding cost, or borrowing against their property to buy their property. Hello? You guys like that? It's very powerful, guys. Now, this simply means the seller will take back a second, allowing you to get a new first to cover the down payment and other costs. The big advantage is it sets the stage for you to negotiate the deal that is easy to fund because you can borrow the first at a low LTV, loan to value, making a hard money loan easy to get. Now, we didn't get into subordination here with my financiers, but they understand what subordination is. And they either will allow it or they won't allow it, and that's up to you if you want to go ahead and exercise it. But we get subordination. We do. Because, again, it's a tool. Same reason why we get seller financing when we don't need it. Guys, it's a tool. It's a tool. On that particular equation that I just mentioned a minute ago, do you remember when I said that if we're going to go ahead and get 36-month seller financing at 2%, 5%, and 10%, we're going to go ahead and get it done in 18 months? Remember? If we go back to the seller, I said this before, in case you didn't catch it, ask for a discount. Are we entitled to an early discount, an early payoff? Absolutely we are. And you'll get that additional discount, and that additional discount can be millions, or it could be hundreds of thousands. All right? Subordination can also be used in more commonly manner by borrowing as much as you can on the first and getting the seller to take back a second for the difference with a longer payoff period. In this case, the financing is your permanent financing, so the first will be on good terms through an institutional lender and no short-term balloons on the second. Wow. Now here's some notes to take on subordination. Make sure you do your best to lower the amount of the new financing and increase seller financing. Guys, it just won't work well on high existing debt. Be sure the property will easily support both payments if it applies. And never overborrow and get yourself into a trap. All right. Page 81. Never, I said don't overborrow and get yourself into a trap. Okay. Explain, page 81. Explain to them that it's the vault that will unlock the door to get the deal done. Also, explain to them that it will allow you to get plenty of money to pay the seller their interest, if any, and to repair, entitle, develop, and also carry the property. Now, if they object, you ask to this. Why are you opposed to subordinating? Why? What's the reason, seller? Are you opposed to subordinating? They'll likely come back and they'll say that they're worried about foreclosure if you default on either note. Ask them under what conditions could you possibly default? Well, how could I possibly default? They will say non-payment, of course. You ask them any other reasons. They might express concerns about the project getting completed, and you'll have to go ahead and persuade them that your team can do it. And that, guys, is bringing in the professionals, like the assistant to the governor of the state of Texas that owns and operates buildings, like somebody who's got a development resume that could choke a horse. These are the professionals that we're speaking about. Okay? Cite the accomplishments or the accomplishments of your project manager. What happens when you bring on, guys, a top-notch project manager? And what happens with their resume once they become part of your team? She was a project manager, and she has a big, long resume. She came up here, and she stood here. Now she's part of my team, and she's got 5% ownership. Do I have her resume for my team? Absolutely, guys. And we take down property in a new entity anyway, and that's going to be a new LLC, which we're going to discuss later tomorrow. Okay? Now, send them the resume. And if they say no other reasons, then ask, what if I paid an entire year of interest loan payments in advance? How would you like that? Will that make you feel warm and fuzzy? All right? Wouldn't this make it impossible to default? Because I'm going to go ahead and send you a whole year of interest loan payments in advance. This is okay to do since you're going to go ahead and combine the seller financing with hard money. And hard money often allows you to prepay interest anyway. All right? So also if the seller agreed to low or no or deferred interest, this will be a non-issue. And a lot of times we do. I walked you guys through the interest on how we go ahead and do that. Now, other strategies to get subordination. Agree to cap the amount on the first loan. Now, I'm the master of capping the first loan because I know that we always borrow more money than we need. So what I say to them is this. By the way, the deal that I walked away from in Colorado, I had subordination clause. I was going to go ahead and borrow the whole down payment, borrow the 50, borrow all the money that I needed through the scope of work from the engineer. He told me it was going to cost, with everything, all hands down, he told me it was going to cost around $350,000. I went ahead and had them cap a new opportunity, subordinated loan, and a cap a new first for $750,000. I had plenty of room in the deal. It was negotiated masterfully. My partners couldn't even believe. I think one of my partners has some of the clauses framed up in their office. I mean, this thing was negotiated masterfully. I mean, it has every key component. It's just the city didn't want to move, right? They just didn't want to do the deal. Now, we're not here trying to go ahead and move forward in that regard. We want to get deals done. We want to get in and get out, get rich. Remember that, okay? Now, only spend the money on the project, meaning the property. Before you agree to do this, did you promise other investors that you'll repay using the funds from the first loan? If so, you can't agree to both. Make a note on that. If you promised other money out of that, you can't agree to both, okay? Now, with vacant income property, only draw funds as new leases are secured. All right? If you don't need subordination until after the close, only require the seller to subordinate if and when the improvement or the construction loan funds. You can tell them, look, I only need it when I need it, and I don't need it now. That'll put them at ease. It'll help them. It'll help them understand that we want it in place, but we're not going to be utilizing it, and we may not utilize it. Okay? Partial prepay. Seller seller gets some money now, subordinates the balance. This should be your final concession. Again, the seller gets some money now and subordinates the balance. That means that you're going to go ahead and have them subordinate the balance, but you're going to go ahead and draw up some private capital up front. And believe me, if there's room in the deal, you can exchange equity for capital. All right? Deed in lieu of foreclosure is the last. It will not work because the first position loan you're going to get will consider that a default. But of course, you just got to check with the financier. All right? Check with the financier. All right. So, guys, what it comes down to is subordination. I have a a handout. Do we have the subordination handout real quick? Can you go ahead and pass that out real fast? We're going to go ahead and pass this out real quick. Okay. While they go ahead and pass that out, this is very, very important. Since we're talking about subordination, we're going to get back into letters of intent and contracts later. And there is a section in there where I'll be speaking about subordination. But what I want to do, and Lisa, can you bring me one of those up too as well? I want to go ahead and walk you guys through something on the subordination clause. Thank you. Okay. We'll talk about the verbiage that goes in letter of intent later. You guys remember, we're going to get into letters of intent contract. Letters of intent first. That's a meeting of the minds. Then after the letters of intent, then we go ahead and go to contract. All right? Now, in the contract, and this is my disclaimer, guys, so understand that laws concerning real estate are constantly changing in all areas. It's your responsibility to keep up with the laws and comply with the law in your state. Under no circumstances am I looking to get in there and let it happen. Just understand that, okay? Understand that. You're responsible for this. So just take this clause and give this clause to your attorney. And or if you're doing a deal with me, we're providing the heavy lifting, we'll go ahead and go over it for you. All right? So, subordination. It's right at the top. The top paragraph is the only thing you need to focus on at this moment. And you can read the rest. Seller agrees that the seller financing in paragraph blank of the contract shall be secured second deed of trust on the property, subject only and subordinate to a first deed of trust to be obtained by buyer, so as long as the proceeds of such first loan are expended solely for the costs incurred by buyer in the connection with the property or any part thereof. Seller agrees to sign a subordination agreement in a form reasonably required by buyer's lender to document seller's agreement that the seller financing shall be subordinate as here and above provided to new loan obtained by buyer. Guys, that's music to my ears. You understand what all this means? This means that they're willing to go to a junior lien position in second position to allow you to take out a new first, and they're going to cap that first. They're going to show, your lender is going to show them and say, look, we need X dollars, we need $1 million, we need $2 million, we need $3 million in first position to make this deal happen. And they're going to go ahead and say, okay, well, I'm offering them seller financing, and I'm willing to take that whole seller finance note and put that whole seller finance note into second junior lien position to allow you to come in and encumber my property with debt in first position. And that money that you're going to be putting in first position also can include your down payment, borrowing against their property to buy their property. Guys, this is music to my ears, and this is called motivated sellers. It only takes one deal to set you up. This is very, very powerful. Subordination is a tool that you need to know. Don't worry about negotiating the tool. We went over the basics from A to Z on subordination. When we cover the letters of intent, we're going to go ahead and show you the subordination verbiage that will go into the actual letter of intent as well. So that way you can feel nice and comfy when you go ahead and try to explain subordination. You could back it up with right verbiage so they'll understand what you're talking about. That was a joke. Guys, just make note here. We do not go and ask for subordination on the call the first time round unless we're dealing with the right person. It's all about clarity, isn't it? Isn't everything about clarity? Look, if two people are on the same page, you can just, what I call, cut the mustard right then and there. You can get right down and dirty and say, look, the way we could buy this thing is by you offering a seller financing, but we're going to need you to go ahead and subordinate to second position. The reason being, we don't like to front load our projects, and obviously this project's got some issues that we're going to have to cure. So if you allow us to go ahead and have our lender put some debt on the property in first position for a short period of time, we can get you cashed out, we can work out a purchase price. How does that sound? If they understand what you're saying and the clarity behind it, you can get it done on a one-call close. But don't try to discuss subordination and ask the broker if the seller is willing to subordinate. Because if the broker does understand what subordination is, what is the broker going to say? Not just no, but I'm going to have to ask. Now, try to go ahead and teach a mini seminar on subordination to a broker and have the broker go sell the seller on subordination. It's very tough. Now you're in a situation where you're going to have to re-explain yourself. But don't get hung up on it. When it comes down to it, it's actually really easy. It is. It's not as complicated as it sounds, and it's going to be tough for you. But don't worry, I'm here for you. We'll get it done together if need be, if we need subordination. But guys, the reason why I get subordination when I don't need it, wouldn't you like to have subordination on each and every deal? Wouldn't you like to have seller financing on each and every deal? Wouldn't you like to have the best terms, the best of the best terms that you possibly could ever have on each and every deal? Yeah, why not? You know? I get subordination just so I can go back and say, look, I know that you went ahead and we capped $1 million to go ahead and get out of first on the property. But what about if I told you that we don't actually need you to subordinate, but it's going to take a little bit longer? Would you go ahead and cut out the subordination clause to give us another 24 months? Well, we already gave you 36. I understand that, but I just need a little bit more time. For whatever reason, if you need to buy time and you have those type of negotiations in place, you can use them as a tool. It's very strong. That bit of advice right there to you can save a deal. Remember I said low risk? The way that we create that is also to create the right terms, and having terms sometimes that we don't need. Okay? That's like when we go ahead and negotiate our deal. Tap her on the shoulder when we negotiate our deal. What we're going to do is we're not just going to, and I understand it's a friend of a friend, so obviously we're going to adjust things down in a different fashion because it's coming through as a referral. So obviously we're going to take a whole different approach with it. It's going to be a buddy-buddy thing, and it's going to be something totally different. It's not going to be a tough negotiation. It's going to be either, yeah, this is the way we can do it. This is what's going on. These are the professionals in line. You feel comfy. Let's move forward and get it done. Okay? That's it. But we're going to have to buy a little bit of time. And we just want to make sure that they understand that if we're going to be setting ourselves up for success, and they're the ones that are going to be giving seller financing, don't you think that they're going to appreciate us setting the deal up for success, regardless of how painful it is for them to hear that we're going to need 2 additional 6-month options to buy more time if we need it? It's going to ensure that the deal still happens and moves forward and gets closed. Okay? All right. So remember, make it happen.